maybe laughing at us a little bit when we're deciding who would be the next chair after Mark Hall stepped down. We were saying, no, you should do it because you have the better talents. Well, no, you have these talents, maybe you should. I mean, we're lousy power brokers, so, but that was it was such a healthy discussion. And my hope, what we want to do is to carry that culture of collaboration and cooperation, not only that exists in this board, and we all want to nurture that, but throughout the organization, and that we regard each other as partners and collaborators, and that's a safe place to be vulnerable, to disagree, to be ourselves. And we want that to be throughout the organization. We've gone through some tough times here, and so that everybody's voice matters. And that certainly goes along with the governor's initiatives of employee satisfaction, DEI, all of those things. The culture for us is, and correct me if I'm saying something wrong here, culture is critical. Culture, I'll repeat this, people get tired of it, but cultural leads strategy for breakfast. If we have a great culture, we can do anything. We can accomplish anything, and we can overcome anything. So that's where we start with up here. I think we're at the bottom. We're supporting everybody else. So that's as brief as I can get with that, but it's collaboration and cooperation, power with everybody, not power over. So that goes to our partners out there in the field, the licensees and the distillers, the growers, everybody that we deal with. We feel that's a partnership with, and although we do have the authority or weighted with the authority to make decisions that may be not favorable when we have to, but that's not something we enjoy as much as the other part of it. And then I want to reiterate our mission here. We have 2 points to that. One is the public health and safety of the citizens of Oregon. And we're able to do this because we're a control state, and we can control the access to both marijuana and to liquor. And also we can address, because we're a control state, we can address the misuse and abuse of these substances. And I don't know how many millions that we send to the cities and counties and states to do that. So we're very conscious of that. That's our #1 goal. And the second one is the success of our partners out there, all the businesses that are under our purview. And it's not through pushing the sale of alcohol, but protecting the ability of these businesses to succeed in what's our 3-tier system. So nobody can be in more than 1 tier. It's either in the manufacturing or distribution or in retail, but you can't be in more than 2 of those. And that helps protect these businesses from the big guys coming in and just buying everything up. We have great small businesses here in this state, and we want to protect them and help them be successful. So how do I do time-wise on that? As an Irishman, I'm thinking very proud.
Wonderful.
Secondly, we have a new commission member coming on. Is Alicia on here?
Yes.
Is that,
Yeah.
Good morning. Alicia Hayes will be sitting over here at some point. And she's over on the East Coast now. And are you visiting your son there? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and he's with the DOD, Department of Defense.
Well,
is that correct?
He just took a new job, and he says all I can tell you is he works for the federal government. So I'll wait and see when I get more info.
All the secrecy around this, but wonderful. Alicia brings just a great wealth of experience and knowledge in public health and behavioral health and DEI and all the things that we've talked about, and most importantly, a lot of knowledge about pickleball. In case you didn't know, that's what we do when we recess back here. We're mostly playing pickleball back there. So, Alicia, welcome. And would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Sure. Thank you very much. I don't know how you all responded when you got the request to apply for the OLCC, but I was a little surprised. And then I looked closer and realized that and I know that my passion for prevention and public health, and I just finished 16 years on the Eugene 4J School Board, commitment to youth and to limiting youth access, and all that I know you're doing made me actually respond to the email and not just laugh at it and say, I wonder what they're thinking. But I'm looking forward to learning more about all the work that the OLCC does and how my voice can be a part of that. And I always appreciate the quote about culture eats strategy for lunch. I love those books. So, thank you very much. I did just retire, not just, it seems that way, 6 years ago from running Health and Human Services for Lane County. So that did include behavioral health, juvenile justice, public health, developmental disabilities. We had medical clinics and a lot more going on there. So thank you. Looking forward to seeing you all in person next month.
As are we, Alicia. Thank you. I got my hand slapped here a little bit. Thank you, Laura, we need to take roll.
Good morning. And it's October 19th, 2023. My recording hadn't started, so I just want to get that on the record. Commissioner Curran?
Here.
Commissioner Floyd?
Here.
Commissioner Japong Porter?
Here.
Commissioner Hayes?
Here.
Commissioner Miletus?
Here.
Chair Doherty?
Here. Thank you. My first job and I stepped on the regular. Secondly, Jeremiah Brickhouse, there you go. Why don't you come on up here? Jeremiah Brickhouse is our new CIO, and so glad to have you on board. He comes from South Dakota and now lives in Central Oregon.
Yeah, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I currently live in Bend with my wonderful wife of 30 years. We have 2 boys that graduated from Oregon State like a year ago. One of them just got a job last night, so I'm super excited for that. I'm trying to get them off dad's payroll. But my wife, her name is Twyla. My kids are Isaiah and Jared. My wife is a retired school teacher. She taught for 19 years in South Dakota, first grade. On the professional side, I've been working in technology for 24 years. I was a software engineer out of college, started working for a large health system in Rapid City. And for the past 8 years, I've been the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer of St. Charles Health System. And so this is a completely different vertical for me, but I can tell after spending a couple of days with the IT team, the challenges are the exact same. So you guys have a fantastic IT team today. I'm super excited about working with them. And we will have a plan for Craig to help us execute on.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
If you've been through the St. Charles Health System, you've probably had your challenges there.
Oh, yeah. A lot of gray hairs on my head for that.
Yeah. It was all black before you started there. Is that
Yes, it was actually my photo online. It's definitely black now and gray.
Well,
So,
thanks for being here and welcome.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome, Jeremiah.
So now we have a couple of motions to consider. Is that where we are on this? Oh, let me pull that up. Sorry. There we are. We'll need to entertain a motion to approve the September 19th commission meeting minutes.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the September 21st, 2023 commission meeting minutes as written.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll.
Commissioner Curran?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter?
Yeah.
Commissioner Hayes?
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus?
Yes.
Chair Doherty?
Yes. Then I would entertain a motion to a discussion for direct appointment process.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
I move that the commission proceed with the direct appointment process as outlined in DAS policy 40.010.02 because the director position requires unique professional skills and specialized knowledge. Quickly filling this position is critical to OLCC operations, and Craig Prenz meets and exceeds the minimum position qualifications.
Discussion?
Well, thank you for everything. I mean, this has been quite the ride, and I think, you know, the day you first came in here, you know, I said, you know, this has been a whirlwind, and we need to sort of vet you and make sure you're up to the task. And, you know, we've been around the country together at this point, we've met the suppliers, I don't know, we've been through a war. So, you know, thank you for everything. To me, you've earned your stripes, and you're here. So, I mean, is there any other discussion, or can we?
Well, let's get that one. We'll take that motion to use the process of direct appointment. So would you call the roll on that one?
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Melitas,
Yes.
Chair Doherty.
Yes. And now I'm going to entertain a motion here. It's about, now we move to, do we want to direct appoint Greg Prinz? And we went through a process, excuse me, to vet Greg Prinz, and we put him through an hour and a half with, we had people from the governor's office, we had people from the field, from our great partners out in the field, Chair Revol and myself and Kiana were there. And in my opinion, he did very well there. There was one comment, I think, that he was not quite as brief in his responses. He must be Irish. I think he was taking too long in his answers. But so that, all of that, and having worked with Craig now for what, since February, we've gotten close and are seeing eye to eye on almost everything. So I'm very pleased. But that's my opinion. Everybody will have their own. So I would entertain a motion to direct appoint Executive Director Craig Prinz.
Chair, I move to direct appoint Craig Prinz as the permanent Executive Director, Administrator of the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission.
Yep. Any discussion? Let's open up here.
Really good point, Chair.
Yes. Yeah.
But the one thing that wasn't mentioned, and I kind of was sussing out some of the agency workers, and based on that, it seems like you're being really well received by staff.
Thank you.
My little tidbit.
Okay. Any other? All right. Oh, anybody else have anything? Okay.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter, Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Melitas,
Yes.
Chair Doherty.
Yes. Welcome, Craig. Glad to have you on board. I'm glad the work that you are doing, and look forward to much more of it together. So thanks for stepping up and stepping into the breach when everything was going on. That was,
yeah.
I don't know if that was a pleasant phone call for you or whether that just.
It was, you know, I've learned so much about this staff and you all. So I just wanted to say thank you. Deeply, deeply appreciate the appointment. And I want to say thank you to the staff who have been using all their energy to do this great mission that you mentioned for the citizens, their health and safety, and for these industries. So I'm just honored to be able to lead this staff. That was really nice, Commissioner, to hear. You know, I've just enjoyed getting to know the staff in this last few months and rebuilding some of the staff. As you know, we're introducing folks as we go. And I want to just thank you, Chair, for your stepping into this. And my commitment is, I agree, this is a commission that works together collaboratively. And it's, easy to take that for granted unless you don't have it, right? And when you have a commission that is not have that culture of low ego and focused on the work. And I want to do everything I can to, you know, we're going to be onboarding more commissioners and we're going to have more folks come January. And so I want to maintain what I think is a really beautiful commission culture too.
Yeah.
And communicate well with you all to make sure that I'm doing that and handling your trust well. So I want to thank you for that. And then lastly, as you said, I want to thank the partners who have been patient with me as I've learned a little bit in the last 8 months of this process. So just really gratitude. And so, and I know that comment that I can talk too long, this isn't the first time I've heard that. So I'll just end it there and say thank you.
Well, after this, you're probably going to hear it again. So.
Exactly. I know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig. So now we have the Oregon wine industry update here.
Online.
I think they're on the screen.
Oh, there we are. So Jana? Is that it?
Headphone.
Good morning. I'm Jana McCamey, the Executive Director for the Oregon Wine Growers. I don't know if Fawn Berry is also on camera. I can't tell. I think she needed that enabled for her to be able to be on screen.
All right, she should be good to go, Fawn. There we go.
Good job.
Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Fawn Berry representing the Oregon Wine Council. Thanks for having us today.
Good morning.
So I think I'm going to kick it off and then Jana's going to go through a couple of slides for you. And then I'll come back to talk to you a little bit about legislative issues. You can go to the next slide. So we just wanted to give you kind of a general picture of the wine industry by the numbers. These are different facts and figures about the industry that have been pulled largely from the 2022 Oregon Vineyard and Winery Report. This is something that's done every year and I think is a good way to look at the industry as you go from year to year to see kind of what's happening in each of the years. So these numbers are all positive, and I think what they tell us is that the wine industry is recovering from some of the challenges that we have faced, but it's still a work in progress. So we have close to 1,500 vineyards in Oregon, which is almost 45,000 acres. That was an increase of about 6.2% from 2021 to 2022. About 137,000 tons are harvested or were harvested in 2022. There are about 726 wine producers. This is a number that you will see different figures from different sources, and it all depends on how you're counting in terms of if the people are just making wine, if they have an actual winery, and that sort of thing. So, and then there's about 5.7 million in cases were sold in 2022, which was about an 8% increase over 2021. The top planted varietal is Pinot Noir, with about 60% of our grapes that are planted being Pinot Noir. And there are about 23 different AVAs across the state, which is something that's really great for Oregon to have those different varietals in different regions that are all represented from the industry. But Oregon is still small, even though we are one of the larger wine producing states. We're about 1.5% of the US wine production. So Jan, I'll kick it to you.
Great. Yes, well, good morning. And I wanted to take a moment, on behalf of the wine industry and the Oregon Wine Growers Association to congratulate Chair Doherty and also to welcome Commissioner Hayes. We look forward to working with you, and also to congratulate Director Prinz on his appointment. Early on, he met with us to learn more about our industry and to address a few challenges our wineries are facing, which we'll get into those a bit later. You know, OLCC is such a critical agency for our wineries, and we really appreciate the partnership and the work of the staff and leadership to be a partner with us. So thank you for having us here today to talk about the wine industry. And again, we are here as a resource for you on education, other matters. So look at us as a resource for you going forward in your important roles. Fawn touched on a lot of the high points from the recent vineyard and winery survey. We do, as an industry, some economic impact assessment a few years, and a lot of this information is from an organization called Wine America, which is a national trade association for American wineries, and this is focused specifically on Oregon. Over $7 billion in annual economic activity in Oregon. This is direct and indirect. So the wine industry is a really critical economic driver in the state and a really tangible piece of Oregon that you can take around the country and internationally to really bring the essence of Oregon to those outside of the state. The value of the wine grapes themselves is $330 million. You might say, wow, okay, that really illustrates, excuse me, what value added agriculture is. We are taking the wine grapes and converting them into a value added product that's then sold in tasting rooms, sold to wine club members and others around the country. And so really having the ability to direct ship is so critical to our wineries. Many of them struggle to get into distribution because they're so small. So really protecting those avenues for them to get their product direct to consumer is really important for value added industries like Oregon wine. We have over 50,000 jobs supported by our industry and over 2.4 billion in annual wages. We contribute 440 million in taxes overall, including 112 million state and local taxes. You talked about that important role that OLCC plays in distributing money out to the state and local governments. That's a really crucial role and something that's very important. The tourism impact for our industry, 2.36 million tourism visits and 802 million in expenditures. So, you know, overall, our industry is driving a lot of economic activity in the state, despite, as Fawn mentioned, being 1.5% of U.S. wine production. A lot of people are really surprised to hear that, especially when you live here in Oregon. You think, you know, that we're much bigger than that, but we are small and mighty. Over 20% of the top wine scores go to Oregon producers. So not many ag products are ranked on a 100-point scale in fine wine magazines, but that's what we have in the wine industry. And really, with 1.5% of production, we're you know, punching above our weight in terms of those wine scores. Our average bottle price is about $20, $18 to $20, which is much higher than our neighbors in California and Washington. So it's more of a premium product. And something where our folks are really focused on quality and natural variation year to year in vintage. So that's a snapshot. And I think you'll probably hear from the Oregon Wine Board at some point, which is our semi-independent state agency funded by the industry that focuses on marketing and research. And they may have some additional information to share with you about our value for the state. Next slide, please, Laura. So as we've kind of painted this rosy picture about what's going on with our industry, I want to take a few minutes to focus on some of the headwinds that our industry is facing. You know, 2020 was a really tough year for everyone for a lot of reasons, but in our industry, we had really devastating wildfires that caused a great amount of havoc for our industry and really caused our economic value to drop significantly. So every year, you know, we're farmers, we're looking at the sky to see what Mother Nature is going to deliver. And so wildfires are an ongoing concern. Some are still recovering. Some didn't have a 2020 vintage to sell. And as you know, especially with the red wines, you're a few years behind when you've actually picked the grapes and made the wine before it goes to market. So we're still seeing some of those impacts from 2020. Water is another issue that's really big for our industry. You know, wine in general is a very efficient user of that natural resource. It's primarily in the early years when vineyards are getting established that the water needs are greater, but depending where you are in the state, Southern Oregon, Eastern Oregon, there's an ongoing need for water. And as we know, that's a finite resource. There's a lot of groundwater restricted zones. Certain irrigation districts have to shut off water, for example, in Talent in Southern Oregon, and that can greatly stress the vines and affect quality and quantity. We also see, you know, with climate change, other disease and pest pressures. In this last session, legislative session, we were able to get $440 million for vine mealybug eradication. That's a new pest pressure coming up from California. So we're always trying to stay on top of these kind of challenges. Last year, there was a freeze in April in the Willamette Valley, and there were folks that thought that that was going to be really catastrophic for the vines, and it turned out to not be the case. That was last year was starting off in a very stressful way, but really in the end, we had that lovely fall weather that allowed the fruit to ripen. It was a very robust crop. But as I mentioned, being farmers, you're always looking to see what's coming, and it's hard to predict what that's going to be. So we're really trying to work to, you know, adapt to a changing climate that's throwing a lot of different weather and pest pressures our way as an industry. So nationally, we are seeing a leveling off of consumption. Some of that, there's a variety of factors that play into that. Some being, you know, baby boomers are starting to age out more of the buying of wine. Some of them have wine that they've accumulated in cellars and are working through that wine. There's a big challenge in bringing the new generation folks to become interested in wine, especially Oregon wine that's at a higher price point. There's a lot of alternative beverages out there, whether it's hard seltzers or other beverages, and also more folks that are choosing to drink less or to not drink at all. So we're kind of seeing a leveling off of consumption nationally, which is just an ongoing trend to contend with. The other issue there is inflationary pressures. So we are seeing a lot of cost increases due to inflation, as everyone is seeing. So the production costs are going up, and also we're seeing new programs go into place to deal with end packaging. So California wine bottles and packaging are have been added to their bottle bill, and that'll take effect in January. And so we're going to see more and more states that are having programs such as that. So with, you know, increased inflationary pressures and also, you know, new programs that come with a cost for the industry, we are seeing some pressure around those kind of cost increases. Another thing we're seeing in Oregon that's creating some issues for our industry is a tourism decline. We've seen quite a drop in tourism this year in particular. I know the different tourism entities within our industry, we don't focus on tourism specifically, but we, you know, are in discussions with a lot of our regional groups and statewide entities, and also Travel Oregon. It's a trend that we're seeing, that there are fewer visitors coming. And as I mentioned, that direct to consumer sales channel is really the lifeblood, especially for our smaller and mid-sized wineries. So working proactively with, as an industry, with Travel Oregon and others to really highlight the reasons to come visit Oregon and come out to wine country, because those become the real aficionados that continue to buy wine over time, are those who visit our beautiful state, see our beautiful wine country, and taste the amazing product that we're making here. Lastly, I'll touch on workforce challenges. This is both in the vineyard and in the winery. You know, with COVID and other things, we've saw, you know, a decline in international folks coming in to work harvest. It continues to be a challenge. There's a lot of pressure on wages We talked about inflationary pressures. We have ag overtime that's being phased in here in Oregon. So overall, it's a complex workforce challenge for our industry. New, protections that have gone in place for heat and smoke and other compliance needs. So it's something that our folks really have to stay on top of to try to have the workforce that they need to make the product. Next slide. Okay, so to get to a few OLCC issues, wanted to touch on tonnage tax collection. So I mentioned the Oregon Wine Board, which is the semi-independent state agency that is self-funded by the industry and promotes the industry, focuses on research and education. OLCC collects that tonnage tax for the industry. It's $25 a ton of grapes, and that's split between the grower and the winery. We really appreciate the work to, collect that money and remit it to the wine board. In the report that Fawn was mentioning at the start, we see that about 30% of grapes are being crushed out of state. A lot of that is happening in California and Washington. And so ensuring that those out-of-state producers are still paying their portion of the tonnage tax, remains an ongoing challenge. It's sometimes hard to determine, there's no database of wine growers in the state. So determining, how to get that information out to those who are purchasing the grapes, that they are responsible for their portion of that tonnage tax. Because being only 1.5% of production, we really need every dollar to be able to work on important research, to address some of the issues that we talked about, climate issues and wine quality issues, other issues, and also to fund marketing. So we'd love to continue to talk about ways that we can partner and work together around tonnage tax collection. The Oregon Privilege Tax online system, really appreciate Director Prinz and staff working with us proactively to address some concerns within our industry. We had hoped to have a little different experience by setting up a user group of some of our folks that work on the compliance side to help guide the development process for that Opto system. Unfortunately, a lot of that information that was provided, in prior years was not taken on. And so the initial rollout was a lot more cumbersome than what we had envisioned as an industry, and that's ongoing work. OLCC has been very proactive in communicating some changes that are coming down the line, which are appreciated. One area where we would still like to continue conversation is if we could go back to the prior practice of allowing wineries to simply reference a shipping document with physical copy of those documents available for a desk audit by OLCC if necessary. Having to scan and submit each one, for a lot of our wineries, it is akin to doing a desk audit for every winery in Oregon for every filing. So we see this as a burden both for the agency as well as our wineries, and it could save OLCC a lot of burden of storing those images and processing them. And the wineries do maintain those records should there be a reason to audit in the future. So we would like to continue the conversation about how we can make that Opto system be something that our wineries are pleased about. I know a lot of folks were ready to get off of the paper copies and into the online world, but there's been a lot of complication and displeasure with how that's been designed. And I know that the OLCC's staff and leadership are on top of it, and we simply want to share that we appreciate that, and we'd like to continue to work with you to refine that system. OLCC is a very important partner for our industry around education and safe service. Our wineries and tasting rooms take this role very seriously and want to ensure that they're following all of the rules and regulations to provide safe service. And in the past, we have partnered with OLCC to bring some additional education through webinars beyond just the server permit process to make sure that our tasting room folks are properly equipped to be able to be safe servers. So we'd love to continue that partnership and know that it's something that our industry takes very seriously. Did want to note that for the wine industry, food and wine go together so well, and is such an important part of the process of serving wine and enjoying wine. And moderation is something that our industry really wants to convey and support. We see it as critically important to be partners in safe consumption and moderate consumption. And that's a message that our tasting rooms take when they are doing their service, and also providing limited opportunities, to have food with tastings. So let's continue that important partnership between the wine industry and OLCC. And lastly, wanted to touch on the home delivery of alcohol rulemaking. We've been able to participate in both the legislative process and the rulemaking process, and we really appreciate where this landed. We know that it's really important to regulate this part of delivery and ensure that alcohol products are kept out of the hands of minors. There was concern about impacts on common carriers like UPS and FedEx, who we rely on. And I think we worked through a lot of the kinks and in the rulemaking process are really addressing this kind of gap in safe service and delivery. So thank you for the partnership on that. I'm going to turn it back to Fawn.
Thanks, Jana. So Jana walked through with you some of the issues that our industry is facing. Just looking ahead to 2024, we have a legislative session that's going to be starting in February. It is a very short session, so this is our 5-week session. And the challenge with the 5-week session is it goes really fast and there is a lot happening. So we're trying to be as prepared as possible going into that session. Unfortunately, we don't actually get to see all of the bills until January. So we are basing this off of kind of what we know today and what we anticipate coming forward in the coming year. So Jana touched a little bit on the bottle bill. So Oregon obviously has had a bottle bill in place for a long, long time, but alcohol and specifically wine have not been included as covered products under the bottle bill. There was legislation that we passed in 2022 that addressed putting cans into the bottle bill, wine cans directly into the bottle bill, with a delayed implementation of 2025. Sorry, I have to get my numbers right, which would allow us time to make sure that that we in fact wanted to have wine cans going into the bottle bill, given some other issues that have come up. So you might have heard before of the EPR program that the state of Oregon is undertaking through DEQ right now. The EPR program stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. So that is basically putting the responsibility on manufacturers and sellers of products to be in charge of how those products are then recycled. The wine industry is in a very unique place, just given the fact that we do have now wine cans potentially in the bottle bill, and because of the way that we're selling products in other states. So we have wanted to kind of take a look at the issues around the bottle bill and decide whether or not this new EPR program made more sense for our industry, or if the bottle bill made more sense for our industry. It's important to note that wine bottles they're not the same as other beverage containers in terms of the ability to recycle them, or the ability to kind of do a take back program for them. Obviously, they're a lot larger than other products that are currently in the bottle bill. They're glass, they're heavy. They're not something that can be easily kind of carted around. And so that's part of what we have been working over the past several years to figure out, is what is the right way for us to go about recycling those bottles in a bottle bill type system. We are going to be looking as an industry at the EPR program to try to determine whether or not that would be a better option for our members. But to be honest, it's been pretty challenging for us to kind of figure out what that EPR program is going to look like in terms of costs, because there's a lot of unknowns out there. The EPR program goes into effect July 1 of 2025. And so we are actually looking at potentially legislation in 2024 that would delay that implementation for wineries specifically, or for bottles, wine bottles specifically, so that we have some more time to figure out what the appropriate way is for us to engage in this recycling system. We've been talking a lot more about the bottle bill and the potential of putting wine bottles and cans into the bottle bill, and are talking through those issues with our members and policymakers as we head into the 2024 session. In California, as Jana mentioned, there is going to be the bottle bill taking effect for wine on January 1, 2024. So for our members who are selling into California through distributors, there's not going to be anything else that they need to do. But if they have direct home sales for wine club members or that sort of thing, they are responsible for collecting and remitting that wine tax. And in California, the wine tax is going to be 25 cents. Which is significantly more than Oregon has on our current beverage containers. So in Oregon, we have a 10-cent across the board bottle deposit that is put on all beverages except for wine right now. And so we've struggled a little bit because the cost of actually recycling those wine bottles is so significantly higher than other beverage containers. We've struggled to determine whether or not the bottle bill makes more sense, which would apply to kind of everyone in our industry, everyone selling wine in the state of Oregon, or the EPR program, which I should note is focused on only on those wineries who are selling wine in Oregon that have more than 5 million in global sales. So for Oregon, that ends up being a pretty small list of wineries that would be responsible, but they're then responsible for recycling of the products for the whole industry is the way that the EPR program works. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the bottle bill or kind of our approach as we move forward. It's an ongoing discussion that is going to take up a lot of our time between now and the start of the February session. Alcohol taxes and task force. So I'm sure that you have all been hearing a lot about the potential for alcohol tax increases during the legislative session. We are not necessarily expecting a alcohol tax bill during the 2024 session, largely because there was an effort to pass the the task force on alcohol pricing and addiction services in House Bill 3610 from the last legislative session. So that task force has not convened yet. Our expectation is that it will be appointed and convene at some point by the end of the year, but we're still awaiting further information on that. And the goal of the task force is to look at the overall issue of alcohol and addiction services and determine whether or not there's enough capacity in the market and that sort of thing as it relates to behavioral health issues and addiction treatment, how Oregon handles our current alcohol taxes. Some of that money is dedicated to counties and cities and to addiction specifically, but a lot of that money goes directly into the general fund to be used however the legislature deems appropriate with general fund revenues. We'd like to see that more targeted and more focused specifically to treatment, and think that is a better path than looking at alcohol taxes. Just for your reference, the last proposal that we saw was about I think it was a 1,200% increase in wine taxes. And for Oregon, as we said earlier, 1.5% of the market. Our bottle prices are already higher than our neighbors, and so every dollar that you add on to the cost of a case of wine ends up being something that makes us less competitive in the marketplace. So we are just trying to look at what other states have that are wine producers and try to figure out what the best approach is for Oregon to take. And then finally, I would just end with cannabis enforcement. So there was a lot of work done in the 2023 session to focus on cannabis enforcement and funding as it relates to those enforcement activities. I think for the wine industry, we've really appreciated OLCC and the Department of Ag coming together to make this a more meaningful and successful effort to ensure that the growers out there who are growing cannabis are in fact legal growers and are following the law as it relates to those requirements. For our wineries, I think the biggest challenge that they've had in the cannabis side of things is with illegal grows and those illegal grows that are, next to or in their area, next to their property or in the area. In terms of the impact, there are workforce challenges that come up because we are paying people through the normal channels, and illegal cannabis operations are not doing that typically, and so they can pay typically more and under the table, which makes it very challenging for us sometimes to recruit those workers that we would need to successfully manage our vineyards. And then just the public safety impact, I think, of those illegal operations in the communities where that's happening. A lot of those communities are underfunded on the public safety front anyway. And so it is challenging for them to address cannabis enforcement. So having the OLCC and Department of Ag come together to really work on that issue along with the state police, I think has been really helpful. So those are the legislative issues that we are anticipating. As always, you can't really, if you had a crystal ball, you still probably couldn't figure out exactly what's going to happen in the 2024 legislative session. So we will be prepared for anything, but those are the issues that we are planning to focus on as an industry. So with that, I think we are open to answering any questions.
Commissioners?
Quick question.
Yes.
Jana, interested in the tonnage tax collection and this challenge with out-of-state growers. Do you have any proposals? Does the Wine Association have any proposals and what this agency can do to help ensure collection of that out-of-state tonnage tax?
Well, thank you for that question. You know, it's an ongoing dialogue, I think, within our industry about, you know, how to help OLCC have the information it needs, you know, in order to collect those taxes on our behalf. I do think partnering, you know, with some of our, you know, like organizations in surrounding states to make sure that they're aware of this requirement even, and also, you know, arming our growers with information about the requirement is really important. I don't think there's industry agreement about, you know, a database of growers at this point. But again, you know, I think it's a conversation we could take offline again with your finance team. It's been a while since we've come back to this issue. I know with the myriad of challenges that have been going on for folks over the last years, you know, we haven't had a chance to really connect on this issue recently. And I think it would be important for us to circle back to have a conversation to talk about creative ways that we may be able to assist you in getting the information you need. But I don't have a, you know, kind of silver bullet answer for you, unfortunately.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe something to think about the next time you report in here. Maybe we can circle back on that. What did I saw something, it said 30%. Was it 30%? We're only collecting 30%?
Well, so 30%, so according to the Vineyard and Winery report, which is, you know, it's not, there's not 100% response rate. Some of the data is extrapolated, you know, using different models. So it's not a perfect number, but according to that Vineyard and Winery report that's put out by the Oregon Wine Board and is conducted by the University of Oregon, 30% of grapes that are grown in the state are then sold to an out-of-state entity and then crushed in that state, meaning it's not an Oregon winery. I think one issue that we've seen is there's not really a hook, a really great hook that, you know, OLCC has for those out-of-state producers. But when we passed, it's the tonnage tax fairness bill in 2019, that set up some hooks for OLCC for those out-of-state wineries, depending on, you know, how they are registered here in the state. But it's 30% of the grapes grown by our best assessment are going out of state to be crushed. And so there's not as clear of nexus and connection between those wineries out of state and OLCC as our in-state producers.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Jana. And thank you, Fawn.
Anything else? Fawn, Jana, thank you very much. That was very thorough, very helpful for us. We're all taking lots of notes here, so we very much appreciate that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And as I mentioned, you know, we want to be a resource for you, so don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll give some thought to the question and look forward to speaking with you at the next opportunity.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you. So now the commission will take a recess, and then we're going to return to this room to continue the open meeting. We are reopening the meeting. We're back in session. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. I will entertain a motion for the stipulated settlement agreements. There's 3 of them here. Ken, do you want to handle those?
I can. First, does any commissioners have any comment? No, on any of these?
No further.
Okay, Chair,
Yes.
in regards to the alcohol violations, the marijuana violations, and the 2 licensing,
I'm sorry, I thought we were going, alcohol, then marijuana, and then
I'll separate it.
all
Let's,
separate, okay.
let me separate it. Okay, so in regards to the 8 alcohol violation stipulations and the 2 marijuana stipulated agreements, I move to ratify. Let me take that back. I move to ratify the 8 alcohol stipulated settlement agreements and the 2 marijuana stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff.
Very good. Any discussion? Okay. Vote.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Melitas,
Yes,
Chair Doherty.
Yes.
In regards to the
Keep going.
licensing stipulated settlement agreements, is there any comment by commissioners?
just, you know, I'm recusing myself, I've recused myself with this list before, just as an abundance of caution, I probably don't need to, I just think this friend of mine.
So Chair, in regards to the licensing stipulated settlement agreements, I move to ratify the 2 licensing stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff.
Any discussion? Take the roll.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter, Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Melitas,
Abstain?
Chair Doherty.
Yes. And final.
I think that was it.
That's it.
Isn't there
Yeah.
one? Do we have a
Uh,
the licensing stipulated?
Yeah, we did the 2 at the first one. We did the alcohol stipulated, marijuana stipulated, and then the second.
Okay.
one was
Yeah.
the-
All right,
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. Is that it? You done? Well, then, any other discussions before we adjourn? Great.
Just an update, just for y'all, thank you all for coming. Commissioner Hayes, thank you. Commissioner Kern, thanks for getting on. Sorry about the fog, for you, Jennifer. And just, what I wanted to prep for, so November, we'll have just what our staff will be working on for y'all is we'll have Ledge Days is coming up in November. Rosie's been working with us. We have one presentation we're going to do with the Criminal Justice Commission and the Agriculture Department about the cannabis and hemp harvest for 2023. That'll be in the House, I believe. Is that right, Rosie?
Yeah.
And one of the committees. We will have, there also will be confirmations in November at Ledge Days for 3 more OLCC commissioners. So we'll be tracking that through, much like you did and Alicia just did here in September. And then the last thing I wanted to do is we're planning to have, we talked about the delivery rules. The folks from the wine industry talked about the delivery rules. You'll have those on the agenda in November. So you'll have a chance to vote on the temporary rules that we'll have in place for January. Because January we can, we'll have the regulation of that delivery to consumer. So I just wanted to give you a little preview for November. And just wanted to thank you guys for your patience. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you.